Hello and welcome to Detroit Public Television's Candidate Conversations. I'm Vicki Thomas.
And I'm Jerome Vaughn. These conversations are part of Detroit Public TV's My Vote initiative, a program that has proven instrumental in helping Detroit voters learn more about the candidates running for office. Today we'll hear from the candidates in District 1, James Tate and Wanda Hill.
Now the format will be simple. Questions will be asked of each candidate, and each candidate will have approximately 1 minute to answer. At the end of our conversation, you will have 30 seconds to address voters.
And remember, all of these conversations can be found on the myvote.org website. So let's begin our District 1 conversation with a brief introduction. Mr. Tate, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank Detroit Public Television for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak to the voters. My name is James Tate. I'm currently Detroit City Councilman at large, but I am going for re-election in District 1. I'm born and raised in the city of Detroit, actually born and raised and lived my entire life in the district, so I know the landscape and I know the people. My entire life, my 38 years, the city of Detroit has been going on a downhill slope, and I'm doing everything I can and will continue to work on behalf of the citizens of this city to improve our quality of life.
And now, Ms. Hill, tell us about yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Wanda Hill, and I'm a wife, a mother, a college graduate, qualified resident for the city of Detroit. I saw shortcomings and I decided to run for city council for District 1. I was raised in Detroit public school system. I've lived in Detroit all my life, and I lived in District 1 for 32 years. I attended the Michigan colleges, Wayne County Community College with an associate degree in business management, and Wayne State University with a bachelor's degree in business management.
All right, we're going to ask you a few questions. Ms. Hill, let's start with you. What do you think the biggest challenge facing the city of Detroit is right now, and how will you work to fix it?
I think the biggest challenge that we have in Detroit right now is our financial concern. The crisis that we have that has brought this emergency management experiment here. That, to me, had been ushered in by our legislators, branch of government, and we have to be able to work together to get that experiment completed and out of Detroit. We have to know what the plan is so that we can begin to get the city back on its proper course. So that's the #1 issue that we have here in the city of Detroit, and that is getting our ducks in a row, all our T's crossed and our I's dotted, so that we can begin with good leadership to get us back on the right course.
Mr. Tate?
Yeah, I think our major our priority has to be, and I agree, getting our financial situation right-sized. And you don't do that solo by yourself. You're going to have to use partners, whether that be the partnership of the people in the community, partnership of the business community, you name it. If you're coming to the table to try to assist the city of Detroit, improve the quality of life, it's a win for the residents of this city. And if we're not doing that, then we're really, as a legislator, you're not doing what the people have placed you in that position to do. I believe that from my standpoint, my 3 years that I've been here, 3.5 now, I've demonstrated the ability to work with whomever. The state of Michigan, I don't agree with a number of the issues that they have done and the protocol and the way that they've approached things. But it's imperative that we understand that the law is the law, and Public Act 436 is in place. And we move it aside, and after 18 months, we have an opportunity to take the reins back over, and I plan on doing that with all parties included.
All right, and Ms. Hill talked about the emergency manager experiment.
Yeah.
Tell the voters, Mr. Tate, your position on the consent agreement which was passed by the City Council and led to the appointment of an emergency manager, and if you had to do it all over again today, would you vote the same way?
Yeah, well, the emergency manager law, some say that led to, the consent agreement led to the emergency manager. I beg to differ. I supported the consent agreement, and I supported it because it was an option of either emergency manager or consent agreement. And placed in that situation, I think it's easy to say now in hindsight that we were moving towards an emergency manager either way, now that we see the emails and things that have taken place. But as a representative of the people, my goal was to ensure that as much of the elected powers that we are provided, either some or the majority of the powers that we have would be in place versus none of. And as we've seen in other cities, emergency managers, which is a little bit different from this one, but emergency managers have essentially said, move out of the way and I'll take this over. And the elected bodies end up sitting on the sideline. If I had an opportunity to do this thing again, knowing what I know now, of course not, because I see the track that it's going in. But absent of the information that's been uncovered, I cannot say that I would not have signed that consent agreement again, faced with the choices and the information we had ahead.
And Ms. Hill, maybe you want to
Yes,
chime in and just tell us, did the council do the right thing?
I'd like to throw the question out as to Councilperson Tate. Did you have any idea that signing that consent decree would have gotten us to where we are now? I do feel that by signing that consent decree, that ushered in that emergency management activity. I think that we should have allowed the things to roll as they were, and as I recall, the Public Act 436 was a or, this or that or that. So it's like our legislators just stepped out and grabbed something. I think they should have allowed that process to work. Now we're inundated with law firms, lawyers, boards, committees, ultimate control of one of the two emergency managers that we have. I think that was a bad decision. I think enough information or research was not provided by our current legislator.
Any
I think
rebuttal?
that they failed that activity.
Yeah, certainly if I can rebut. You know, we did do all of the information checking that we could do at that time. If you recall, City Council didn't sign that agreement until, I want to say, 2 days prior to the Public Act 4, because that's what we were under before. Public Act 4, the next step of that being initiated, and that would have been providing the governor to appoint a emergency manager in the city of Detroit. So it wasn't as if we did not do the information, we just rushed to do this. We got criticized because we dragged the process out because we had a number of questions.
Detroit is filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. We'll see whether or not the courts let that move forward. Part of the reason for that is Detroit has spent more than it's brought in. What should be cut in Detroit's budget? Give us 2 or 3 things that should really be cut as the city moves forward.
Okay, I can just tell you as a citizen who's looking for votes to become the next council person that can answer those questions. And I do understand that I am at a somewhat small disadvantage because I'm not there with all that quality information. I would assume from a common sense way of answering this question, if there's any fluff or frills or the fact that a department can merge with another department to become a division, because I meant to tell you also that I have 30 years of sound inside government experience. I retired from the city of Detroit, so I understand city government. And part of my responsibility was developing and drafting and implementing and monitoring budgets. I do know that they do contain frills. And that would be something that I'd have to be elected to research and be a part of that process as far as monitoring and reviewing the budgets.
What do you mean by frills? Name some frills that you think exist.
As a city employee, we had departments that were duplicating divisions, which meant that those departments could incorporate that division as opposed to being a total department. So I did see some frills. Now, I don't know, truthfully, I don't really know how many departments we have. I know when I get elected to city council, I will be available to that information. But every budget does have some frills and some support. That needs to be looked at, and I can't directly say anything to that effect.
Mr. Tate?
Yeah, Jerome, you know, I've heard from some of the candidates who are running for office who have never been there say that they don't have the information. And everything that we do as city council is public information. You can find it online, you can make phone calls, so it's an open book. And so that really, it perplexes me when it's, you know, they're saying that they don't have that information available when it's all public information. In terms of what needs to be cut, you know, we can always look at the contracts that can be reduced, and we've done exactly just that in terms of the city council body over the years. But when we, you know, in the past, there was a lot of fat that were in these contracts. We're down to the bone. We're cutting through the gristle at this point. So it's not so much cutting the budget. It's more or less how do you reconfigure what you do with the dollars that you currently have. And again, how do you build partnerships with outside entities, whether that be the foundations or even, as I said before, the business community to help supplement those deficits that you have, those deltas, to get those things that you need done.
And Ms. Hill, you wanted to
I have
rebut?
to chime in. I do understand that there is a budget online. I have reviewed that budget. But what people may not know is that when a budget is prepared, it lists and defines what it needs the money for. Now, divisions are not broken out. Divisions within departments is not broken out in that budget. So when I spoke earlier, I spoke about friels within departments. And those budgets that are online does not tell you the divisions and the units that, the example I gave, where a unit could mimic a department. Therefore, we can merge that department or enhance the activities in that division and let the department go or downsize that department. So that was my area.
Can I please, if I may, just, it is online. I mean, the reality is it starts off, the budget starts off by giving just a regular line item for that particular department, and then it goes into more detail in terms of where those dollars are going to be allocated. Now, as council, we approve that. But after we approve it, those dollars are then being executed by the executive branch of government. So we no longer have our hands on that execution and the operation of it.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Councilman Tate, as the incumbent, name one thing that you accomplished during your tenure on City Council that you're proud of and that has improved the lives of Detroiters.
Well, one thing that I'm extremely proud of is the fact that you now have in the city of Detroit those who have reached out and that I have an opportunity to touch and talk to. You have an extension of city government who is able and willing to take your ideas and put them in place where we are. The goal has always to be, how do I improve the lives of the people of this city? The stuff that we've been faced with in terms of city government, they're not pretty. They're not, you know, sexy, so to speak. Reducing the budget from where it was years ago, yes, council, we've done that as well, but I can't say that that has helped improve the lives of the citizens of this city. What we've done is look at it from a fiduciary standpoint, and that's our responsibility. But I think what's just as important is that we create an avenue so that the residents of this city will have the ability to provide ideas to their elected officials and get responses back. And I've built relationships with the executive branch to get lights on for people, to get potholes repaired, a number of things, but that's through the relationships that I've been able to build through this time on council.
All right. And Ms. Hill, since you're not the incumbent, just tell us what makes you uniquely qualified to be a member of City Council, with the emphasis on uniquely qualified.
Okay. As Mr. Tate did not mention what the question was, and what did he bring to the table, his explanations were things that he's supposed to do as a council person, as directed in our city charter, and according to the description of City Council. What I'd like to bring is what was not brought over the last 3.5 years, and that is to vigorously monitor our budget. Year after year, since 2010, when we have this current council in place, they've allowed bad budgets to be adopted. They adopted it year after year after year. They saw the cash flow diminish year after year after year, and they also saw the deficit go up year after year after year. Because I am a city retiree and I served as a fiscal manager for 21 years, I know what to look for. I know what budgets are supposed to hold, not soft revenue, but hard revenue. And if it's not right, you're not to allow it to move forward. So I would bring the vigorousness of monitoring our budgets and our expenses.
Small businesses are key to the viability of any city, and if you look along any of the major thoroughfares in the district, Grand River or Losser, there are businesses there which are thriving and there are others that are struggling. What will each of you do to support and strengthen small businesses in the district? Let's start with you, Ms. Hill.
I'm so happy that you asked me that question, because it just brings a smile to my face, because I've been doing my campaigning. I've been visiting these businesses, and I am so happy and somewhat surprised that we have a lot of small businesses in our District 1. I believe that the citizens have a responsibility to help our economics here in the city of Detroit. It's not just about the government or the corporation. The community has to be a part, and therefore the citizens. We need to engage our citizens to shop where they live. They need to know that these businesses exist. One example, I would go to the suburbs to get some merchandise. I discovered during my campaigning and going to all these businesses that it's right there in my neighborhood at the same cost. So we need to let the public know that you have businesses right there. You need to give at least $25, $50 a month to those businesses. We need to encourage people to shop there so that we can build our economy ourselves. The citizens have to be engaged in getting the city back together, and I think that's one of the best ways, is to shop where you live.
Mr. Tate?
Yeah, one thing that I've done since I've been on council is making sure that I keep that open line of communication with the business owners. Didn't wait until election time to do so. We've been doing that since day one. There are a number of businesses that we've, through, again, advocacy and partnership, provided the opportunity to have lighting. If you go over to Sweet Potato Sensations, which is on Losser and Grand River, this is a business that is a phenomenal asset to the city and to the state. Now over in Whole Foods. For a long time, they didn't have lights over there. They've been asking and pleading the department, trying to get some assistance. We work with them and work with the department to get lights on over there, so that helps. Also, the parking meters. We had an issue with Reed's Cakes and Things, which is also in District 1, on Grand River. They were having an issue with parking that's taking place. Municipal parking was actually ticketing their folks $30 a pop. So a cake that usually would cost 25 bucks would actually cost about $50 to $60. We work with the municipal parking to make sure that their customers no longer had to pay that fine and were not getting ticketed. So you've got to be a big advocate for these businesses, not just during election time, but also throughout the rest of the year.
Noting that the poverty rate in your district is 26%, and that 16.8% of the residents in your district do not have a high school diploma, what is your vision for the district in that area, and how do you plan to improve those statistics?
Yeah, well, as we all know, City Council has no jurisdiction over our school systems, and that's a big challenge. I remember back in year one on council, there was a referendum to put the schools under Mayor Bean. I voted no against that because I didn't think that he was ready for it, and he essentially said that that's not what he wanted to do. But we still have to find a way to outreach. I do a lot of mentoring. I go up to schools. I work with teachers. My mom's a teacher as well over at Dixon Elementary. So those issues are very near and dear to my heart. But we have to make sure that as elected officials that we create a situation where the neighborhoods that these young people are walking to and from are free of some of those challenges that they face on their way to and from school. Have worked with the executive branch to remove some of the blight in the areas around the schools. Can I say that each and every property has been demolished and that the brush has been removed? No, but we're going to continue to work hard at it.
Ms. Hill?
Yes, and I did review those statistics this morning. I am a coalition builder, and I know that as a legislative branch of government, we have limitations. But I believe in using my council seat as a platform or influence to bring community and school and business together. We have a lot of colleges in the city of Detroit. We need to engage them with the problems that we're having here. To get the city back in its proper course, it's going to take a lot of us, and it just can't be the 9 council people that we have. It has to be, or the mayor. It has to be the community, the corporations, and the businesses. I want to sit down at the table to strategize, to deal with our youth culture, because that mortality that we have from school to jail, we have to really hone in on that. We have to deal with the culture. So I'm a coalition builder, and we're going to strategize on how we're
Final
gonna do that.
question. Who are you backing for mayor of Detroit? Mr. Tate.
Yeah, I've publicly said this. As a voter, a voting resident, I do keep that very close to me, near and dear. One thing I will say is that I've proven, and I will continue to do so, no matter which one of the individuals end up being the mayor, I have not just a responsibility, but I have an obligation to work with that individual. And, you know, I have my personal vote.
endorsement.
No, absolutely, no endorsement. And you know, because I always look at it from this, I have my own race to run, you know.
Ms. Hill?
Yes, I've heard Mr. Tate avoid that question before. My leadership and my career.
Are you avoiding the question?
No,
Yes.
I think it's smart politics.
Well,
Ms. Hill.
he called it that. He called it potato. I call it potato. But
Okay.
I'm courageous enough and confident enough in my vote and how I feel relative to who I'd like to become the next mayor. I'm supporting Benny Napoleon. I've been told that you shouldn't step out like that, but I'm a courageous person, and I don't have a problem with voicing what and who I feel can help get the city back together again.
Okay. Time now for each candidate to summarize their candidacy and detail the points most important to them. Each of you will have 30 seconds. Let's begin with Ms. Hill.
As I said earlier, I decided to run for city council because of the shortcoming that I've found with our legislative branch over the last 3.5 years. The bad budgets adopted, the notice of the cash flow not coming in, and not one of them actually stood up. My real concern, not up as much as I thought they should have, my real concern is that the council that we have now is so deep and steeped into the problems that we're having relative to this emergency management experiment till I think they've lost focus as to what their responsibilities are. I don't feel like we're getting the proper representation as a citizen of Detroit. I just feel as though they're part of that ultimate control of that emergency manager. I don't hear anyone stepping up on behalf of the citizens.
All right, now, Mr. Tate.
Yeah, again, thank you all for allowing us this opportunity. For me, it comes down to this. When you're in a position of leadership, when you have the people's quality of life and their livelihood basically in your hands, you have to make tough decisions. When you make those tough decisions, there are going to be a lot of people who agree and some who don't. You have to have it inside of you to move forward and do what's right in the best interest of all the people, not just the small group. And I will continue to do just that if elected in this position as the councilman representing District 1.
That's all the time we have for this candidate conversation. A big thank you to James Tate and Wanda Hill from District 1 for participating.
And remember, you can find all of these conversations on the myvote.org website. For all of us at Detroit Public Television, I'm Vicki Thomas.
And I'm Jerome Vaughn. Thanks for watching.